to get it wrong in front of all these people.
In this video, I discuss fandom behavior, and when actions fans may consider supportive actually become invasive. I talk about this in the context of Larry and reflected to what the YouTubers and former radio hosts Dan and Phil, Phan, have said about their experiences being the subjects of intense fan speculation about their sexualities and relationship, speculation that continued for a decade before they came out. I think it's important to discuss problematic behavior within fandoms. When the criticism comes from outside of the fandom, it often comes down to Larrys are delusional, and shipping real people is wrong. This approach quickly kills any possibility to fruitful conversation, and instead, makes people defensive, encourages bullying and hate, and makes both sides even firmer in their beliefs. In case the purpose is to get a point through and not just to ridicule people, that isn't a good approach. Recognizing that someone might be part of the LGBTQ community isn't inherently bad. Specifically, it isn't bad when a queer person recognizes that someone else might also be queer. That's what we learn to do in real life, especially in environments where it is harder to be openly queer. We learn to give and read subtle hints. Recognizing something familiar in celebrities, something you relate to, is very normal. Also, noticing that there might be something going on between two people is very natural. Larry is so special to many queer people because the intimacy we saw between Harry and Louis on The X Factor and after it is something we hadn't really seen on TV or stage before, not between real people, and not a lot between fictional characters either. Many queer people recognized themselves and maybe their relationships, crushes, and feelings in H&L. There have been openly LGBTQ artists before, but the way we were able to watch them become close was something very unique.
First real crush was Tomlinson.
Who?
Louis Tomlinson.
Louis Tomlinson. How does he feel about you?
Neutral, disgusting.
Yeah? That's beautiful, Harry.
When young queer fans see something like Harry calling Louis his crush and saying that it's mutual, they see representation, they see someone like them. Calling those fans delusional and disrespectful for believing that Harry was sincere when saying that, can be very harmful. Even if you believe it was just a joke or fan service, calling people crazy for taking it as something honest is basically telling them that you shouldn't believe that people of same gender attraction even if they say they do. It's just a joke, no homo.
Are you and Louis dating? You are? I figured.
The common claim that Larry is entirely based on stereotypes and on the idea that men can't be affectionate with their friends is simply incorrect. Harry and Louis have never addressed the things they have said and done to feed into the Larry rumors, such as Harry admitting on camera that they are dating, and instead they have just said that fans made up the conspiracy simply based on them being close and good friends. If H&L wanted to properly deny Larry, it might work better if they admitted that they contributed to stirring up the rumors and explicitly stated they were joking or whatever, instead of pretending those things never happened and trying to gaslight fans into believing they just imagined everything. While H&L's way of dealing with it all is understandable if they are forcibly closeted, it really isn't understandable if they never were in a relationship. And that kind of gaslighting can be harmful, especially to queer fans who see representation in H&L and who get ridiculed for it. Being drawn to artists and pop culture figures whom you identify with and in whom you recognize something about yourself is normal, we all do it. Building fan communities around things you identify with is also normal, and it can be very important and meaningful. For example, many of my viewers live in homophobic environments, and if the Larry fandom and my videos can provide comfort or hope to those people, I think that in itself is a positive outcome of the fandom. In today's internet culture, people seem to prefer controversy and drama over genuine discussion, but I wish people tried to understand where others are coming from and why something might be important to them before calling them crazy and disgusting. That being said, when does fandom behavior become harmful? And can we discuss it in a calm and constructive manner? First, let's talk about Dan and Phil. Daniel Howell, Dan is not on fire, and Philip Lester, Amazing Phil, are YouTubers who have made videos on the platform for a long time, Phil since 2006, and Dan since 2009.
So, my name is Dan.
Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my video blog, which I hope you're very excited to be a part of.
They have collaborated regularly on each other's channels since 2009, hosted shows on BBC Radio 1 in 2013 to 2016, had a joint gaming channel from 2014, wrote a book together in 2015, and did comedy tours together in 2015 to 2016 and 2018.
So what are we doing here?
Giving the people what they want, Phil.
Fans quickly started speculating whether there is something more than friendship between Dan and Phil, and some fans started to investigate intensely everything Dan and Phil did to find proofs of them being together. The big difference compared to Larry was that there wasn't evidence of them being forcibly closeted the way there is with Larry, so it is quite unclear to me what exactly fans thought to be the purpose of proving their relationship. Any old fannies watching, feel free to clarify this in the comments. Dan and Phil, or mainly Dan, went from aggressively denying the relationship and trying to distance themselves from each other to jokingly acknowledging the ship and its relevance to their fan base.
The only reason you get views is you're another white guy that people ship with his friend, because they think it's kawaii. Oh.
They were even accused of queerbaiting, which can be very damaging, especially when you are basically telling closeted queer people that they are not allowed to be flirty with each other or act gay unless they come out. This is definitely not the message we should be sending.
Spoiler alert, I'm not straight.
Dan and Phil both made separate coming out videos on their channels in 2019.
Hi, I'm gay. Ow.
Dan made a 45-minute in-depth video about homophobia, growing up, being in the closet, and coming out. It's a video I think every Larry should watch. Phil's video was also longer than the clip I showed. I put links to both in the description. Dan also talked briefly about his relationship with Phil.
And this is when, through the magic of the internet, I met Phil. And obviously we were more than friends, but it was more than just romantic. This is someone that genuinely liked me. I trusted them, and for the first time since I was a tiny child, I actually felt safe. And the relationship we formed at that point was something that I needed in my life. We are real best friends, companions through life, like actual soulmates. Not that souls are a real thing that exists.
Larrys often use Phan as an example of fans being right about their relationship and them being gay after speculating about it for years, which is true, but Larrys usually ignore what they have said about how all the speculation affected them. Dan talked in his coming out video about how people digging into his personal life made him shut down.
There was a point around 2011 where the relationship with my audience shifted from what felt like direct communication between me and individuals that just saw me as a comedy creator to communities of people that formed to talk about me when I wasn't there, which is fine, but for some people it was about getting generally invested in me and my real life, which I thought was a bit strange because inevitably, like anyone who puts themselves out there, some people started to really dig into my private life to find out information about me that I wasn't ready to share. And this was around the same time that YouTubers finally started to get mainstream recognition in the British press. So when all these opportunities came for Dan and Phil, we were really excited, but I was also scared as people clearly knew I wasn't straight, and I hadn't told my family that. None of my old friends knew about this, and what me and Phil had was ours and personal, and yet some people were trying to get access to it for their own satisfaction. It was no longer a few people on the internet, no big deal, so I just shut down.
What I think that Larrys could take away from this is that even though Louis and Harry were open when they started in the band, and while they tried to actively fight against their closeting while in the band, that isn't necessarily the position they are in now. Even though they give hints to those who can read them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are ready to come out to the world, and even when we discuss what we observe, we shouldn't try to expose them. Fans often justify invasive behavior and the attempts to expose H&L by saying that H&L give hints, and while there certainly are real hints, there is also a lot of confirmation bias affecting what Larrys read as hints. When people are actively looking for Larry proofs, everything seems like a proof. Sometimes it even comes across as mockery of H&L's artistry and belittling the depth of their writing, when fans just interpret everything from a Larry perspective, dismiss any other possible meanings, and try to prove that all their songs are about Larry. Although some hints seem very loud to the fandom, the general public doesn't see them like that, and being ambiguous about one's sexuality isn't the same as being ready to come out. Comments like "come out already, everyone knows," can be insensitive, and it often feels like people take it as a game and care more about being right than about giving Harry and Louis the space to speak their truth.
So I don't want to see any responses to me finally talking about this, like...
No one is surprised.
Dan, we've been new.
Wow, you huge galaxy brain genius. What's it like walking around with all those brain cells in there, working overtime? What, you got like 3 in there? Don't lose your balance, mastermind. I'm already dead inside, so it doesn't matter here, but to me, if someone's reaction to a person coming out is just, yeah, I knew, they're showing no empathy towards the issue or that person. They're just making it about themselves like it was a fun piece of gossip they already knew. All we have to do is listen and be accepting.
Where should we draw the line? In my opinion, it's okay to talk about things H&L have deliberately done in public, but if we are not sure whether something has gone out to the public deliberately, we shouldn't spread it. For example, if they are at each other's shows and try to hide, we shouldn't take photos and put them online. If they have to hide, why would you want to expose them and possibly make the situation worse for them by forcing them to hide better in the future? I rarely read receipts anyway, since I don't trust anonymous people on the internet, but I feel that if you have witnessed a private moment between H&L, maybe you should just keep it private. Sure, they probably know they can't trust anyone without an NDA, but do we really want to endorse the kind of celebrity culture where getting some internet clout is more important than respecting people's privacy? Furthermore, we shouldn't try to find out their locations if they don't specifically want to tell us. And we shouldn't try to dig information about them from the people around them, more of this later. We don't need that information to support them, you only want that information for your own satisfaction. While I assume that only a small part of the fandom actively participates in highly invasive actions, a much larger group of fans encourages that behavior by praising people for finding information and by sharing receipts and questionable proofs. It disgusts me how normalized things like stalking and digging into aspects of people's personal lives that exceed what they choose to share with us have become in fandom. People often like to bash fan fiction and accuse fanfic writers of being the toxic shippers, but in my opinion, fanfic and fan art are not really part of the problem. Sure, they may feel uncomfortable to the subjects sometimes, but after all, they are just fiction and fans' artistic expression, and even when they are inspired by real people, they don't really expose or speculate on the real people and their relationships and sexualities. Dan and Phil even encouraged fan art and fiction by looking at it in their videos.
Oh,
Okay, yep.
I like that. Are we kissing at the radio station?
I think, yeah.
That's very unprofessional. You shouldn't.
As if we'd be doing a live radio show. That may count.
You don't need any sun cream, Phil.
Phil bitterly mocks Dan's voice from just yesterday.
It's not even that sunny.
He retreats to the bedroom and stands next to the bed, looking at the sleeping Dan with a cocktail of love and anger burning in his stomach. Dan's jaw drops open as his eyes flicker over Phil's sun-damaged and peeling form.
Today's Draw Phil Naked is...
Even if people don't mind the shipping and are not so subtle about their sexuality, they can still fear being outed, and it still isn't okay to try to expose them. In Dan's most recent video from the 4th of May 2022, he talked briefly about how he felt about fandom speculation.
All the support and enthusiasm I've always appreciated to the side. As we know from Danny's Bizarre Gay Adventure, having a lot of people trying to speculate and expose your sexuality for lols when you're a closeted death defier isn't great. I almost didn't enjoy any of it, as I was living in absolute fear of being outed all the time. This great lie was a wall-up preventing me from forming any real relationships. But it's fine, it kind of worked out, whatever.
The real problem is digging into people's personal lives. Every celebrity should have the right to keep their private life private. While I would love to believe that Larrys just want Harry and Louis to be free from the pressure that the music industry puts on people to stay in the closet, and for them to be happy whether it's with each other or separately, the truth is that many people care more about them being together than them being able to be openly queer. The way people are invested in their relationship might actually make it harder for them to come out. Many fans seem to be in the fandom simply to get Larry proofs and to dig into their relationship. Maybe Harry and Louis don't want to be a public couple, maybe they just want to live their lives and be artists, and they should have the right to do so. H&L don't owe you any information about their private lives, we haven't earned the right to know the truth, like one of my viewers claimed. You haven't earned anything.
I'm somebody that wants to keep the details of my personal life private. So is Phil. I know lots of people these days, thanks to social media, want to share and monetize every aspect of their life, and then as soon as something changes, suddenly it's this huge drama because everybody got invested in the story of your life like it's a soap opera. I don't want that. I want to do certain things without an audience. If anyone thinks people really have to share these things about their life, you need to rethink your position.
I've had multiple people commenting on my channel that choosing not to come out because of one's career is somehow wrong and selfish. People who say those things clearly have no real empathy to closeted people. It's not up to anyone to dictate what another person should prioritize when it comes to their life choices. I bet most, if not all, of these comments come from straight people who say things like, if I were gay, I would put love first. Love meaning being out to the public with my partner, since none of us knows what celebrities prioritize in their private lives.
We can't ask people to just put their lives on hold to address their sexuality first. If a kid dreams of being a footballer, and age 18 gets signed to a club and all their dreams come true, but they're scared to come out because of the insane homophobia in that community, they shouldn't turn it down.
In my honest opinion, if you are straight and cisgender, you don't get to have an opinion on coming out. A lot of the pressure to come out comes also from the queer community, and we absolutely don't have the right to pressure other LGBTQ people to come out either. But while I can understand that queer people feel that they need that representation, which we still shouldn't demand from real people, I really don't understand what makes cishet people think that they need H&L to be together, and that they need to know about it.
Sexuality is a general fact that it can be very useful to know about a person for several reasons, but we can't force people to disclose that either. We don't know this person's life story, what they've been through, if they haven't told people, if they'll lose their job, if they're in danger. There are so many reasons someone might not be open about it. We can preach the message that being out is good, but aggressively speculating or trying to out someone is really bad. I definitely sent some mixed messages. Some were just joking around, others were super defensive that in my panic came across like, I'm now telling everyone I'm totally straight, when all I really meant was, please fuck off and don't invade my privacy, you creepy stalkers, thank you.
If you don't think that there are larries who are creepy stalkers, extremely nosy, entitled, and don't have any sense of boundaries, you probably haven't seen this Instagram post from Louis' guitarist Michael's friend Mikey. The small text says, on the subject, and if this applies to you, please stop messaging my friends/ex-girlfriend, maybe generally have a think about how invested you are in the personal lives of strangers on the internet. I assume that ultimately people's goal was to try to dig information about Louis' sexuality and Larry. Yes, some larries really go that far. I want to add that interpreting the original post as a romantic thing isn't inherently wrong. If it was a man and a woman, that would be a likely interpretation for people to make. So, thinking that they may be a couple isn't wrong in itself, but trying to confirm it, and asking about it from those involved, and even those not involved, is not okay. Just acknowledge that the picture is adorable and leave it to that. You don't need to know more. Don't try to prove the sexualities of H&L's band members. Don't harass anyone. Not H&L's families, not their friends, not people they are associated with. Don't spam people around them with Larry comments. Trying to get someone to out them is really disrespectful, both to H&L, who are the only ones who can give answers about their sexualities and relationship, and to the people you are spamming, who are trying to do their own things, and who would probably rather read comments from people who are actually interested in what they do. instead of those who follow them just to dig information about Larry. Fandom speculation is one thing, but if people who have inside information talked about Larry, that would actually out them, and it really isn't okay. And if they don't like the spamming and snap at you, it's probably simply because you are annoying. You are not doing any good by sticking your nose into people's private life, or by harassing people around them. Even if you claim that you're harassing people because they are problematic, don't. Calling them names and sending them threats won't change anything, it just shows you're a douchebag. If you can't give constructive criticism, just let it be, for everyone's sake. And maybe allow people to change and don't try to validate your hate by a single thing they have said ages ago and since deleted from their social media. Also, don't spam people outside the fandom with Larry stuff. There was recently some drama between larries and a YouTuber, who had made the mistake of mentioning Larry once on a video 2 years ago, and some larries took it as an open invitation to spam his unrelated live streams with Larry comments. I'm not saying whether the YouTuber's reaction was reasonable, but the fandom's reaction certainly wasn't. Just don't spam. It's childish and bad behavior. Actually, I consider anyone who does that an anti, since you are actively harming the fandom. Just respect people's boundaries and understand that supporting someone doesn't mean that you need to know everything about their private life or that you are entitled to that information. And remember that Harry and Louis are individuals first, with their individual identities.
Sometimes it seems like you're just there to be a Sims family, playing house. The journey of your channel isn't about growing your creative style, it's playing the game of life in public.
They are artists, not a Sims family. It's a lot more helpful to focus on fighting homophobia in society, to talk about issues such as closeting and abuse in the music industry, to listen and appreciate what H&L communicate to us, and to enjoy the sweet moments between them and the things they have done in public, instead of trying to expose them, digging into their personal lives, or aggressively shoving Larry in everyone's face, whether it's people who know H&L personally or people outside the fandom.
Yes, it's so important to be truthful about who you are and open and proud in front of the world, but it's our society's fault that these people are scared to say who they are, so let's all focus on making it a welcoming place, and people will come out when they are ready. So yep, I'm here, I'm queer, and don't worry, I'm still filled with existential fear.